Good morning, world. This is Steve Rao, one of the analysts and co-hosts of Pod and Roku TV. I'll be back after March 3rd of next year full time as I am running to be one of the county commissioners for North Carolina, the largest state, Wake County. So excited about that. But welcome to the show. Today, I wanted to just say a few words about Ukraine, since I missed yesterday. February 24th, 3 years ago, was the day that Russia invaded Ukraine. And we want to use this opportunity to remember the strength and resolve of the Ukrainian people. Their strength is inspirational to the world. They remind us that freedom is worth not only fighting for, but dying for. We also remember those brave soldiers in Ukraine who are protecting their freedom every day. I truly believe President Zelensky is the George Washington of his era. I spoke at the state capitol and I reminded the Ukrainian immigrant community that it's really important we remind President Trump and the Republicans of how important our support of Ukraine is. An attack on democracy anywhere is an attack on democracy everywhere. And if Ukraine falls to Russia or they're not able to negotiate a peaceful condition for settlement, a peace agreement, then it will not prevent Putin from invading another country. I think we often forget that U.S. foreign policy has always been about lifting up other nations, whether we look back to World War II, the Marshall Plan, rebuilding Europe. But now it's an America first foreign policy. And this could be dangerous for America moving forward. What's driving this is economic concerns, that our economy is not doing well, that we have had one-sided trade deals with China and Mexico through free trade agreements. And so tariffs and those kinds of things or efforts are being made by President Trump to bring in more revenue for this country. But we just don't know what the cost will be for consumers. And this could lead to inflationary pressures. The other thing to notice is what I call disruption. We talked about turbulence on the show, but there's never been a president in the modern era that has made this kind of bold changes, putting in Kash Patel as the FBI director, who has no law enforcement experience, and a mega podcaster to be his deputy, to run the FBI, one of the most important agencies for crime and terrorism in our nation. We have to look and see what's going to happen with healthcare, with RFK at the helms of the DHHS, and whether he is an anti-vaxxer. Every day that goes by, there's another news story. I've never seen it this aggressive. I can't really figure out the Trump strategy, although I think it's to keep us guessing, which seems to be working well, and to get media coverage almost every day and every night, 24/7. All the media can talk about is Donald Trump. What has he done? What will he do? Well, the only answer I have, as I want to hand over now to Mark Lee, is the Democratic candidacy for president in 2028. I think it's fair to say 2026 could be a good year for Democrats if the turmoil continues. But the question is, who can they have to challenge J.D. Vance, who I think will most likely be the heir apparent to Trump, unless it's someone like Ramaswamy, who by then probably will be governor of Ohio. Only time will tell. But I think it'll either be Andy Beshear from Kentucky, maybe Wes Moore from Maryland, but it's got to be a combination duo that can win the general election, win rural America and red states, and to show people that Democrats can have a message. But you can't win without a message. And I think that's the biggest challenge the Democrats continue to have. But there's an opportunity in a window. Let's see whether they're willing to go through it. Now, let's get started with our show. I probably missed some breaking news stuff, but I just can't never keep up with what's going on. I think the big news yesterday was the federal cuts continue to happen, USAID. These are having impacts on North Carolina with RTI, FHI 360 in Durham. Federal cuts could hurt universities and schools and community colleges. Medicare, Portal was down a few weeks ago. Nonprofits like Central Pine Regional Council, which used to be Triangle J. So these are all, I think, things that we need to look at. But it's just, I can never remember a time when there was so much news about a current president.
Well, it seems like
back in the day when I was in college. Yeah, and I think that's part of the strategy. Back when I was in college, and I'm only here for about 10, 15 minutes, but I wanted to open up today and just bring in the show. When I was in college at Emory, pre-Gulf War, the only time you would hear from Bush if there was a press conference, if he was speaking, they showed a picture of him running with Brent Scowcroft, and who was a national security advisor, or Jim Baker, and it's just I don't remember a time when every day, every night, the news cycle is about Trump, and I think it's a trap, because even these Democratic or leaning stations are not talking about their strategies, and so this is a continued pattern I've seen. Even Josh Stein, our governor, got named by as a co-chair of a bipartisan committee for federal partnerships, and I think the governor did it to have a better chance to get the message out. And so it's in terms of, I want to work with the federal government. So anyway, we'll see what happens.
It seems like he got some praise, Josh Stein did, from President Trump about Elaine and the recovery of Elaine, because he did not just kind of like go after Stein, but he actually, it seemed like, was complimenting Stein. And there are a number of these federal workers that are still being left as a limbo, as apparently the deadline has been extended, where they've got to show what they've done in terms of their work and all along those lines. And there's been some pushback, including from the FBI and Kash Patel, because some people were told to ignore that email. But apparently Musk has still got this notion that he would like to see what folks have done to earn their jobs and all along those lines. And they're saying that nearly 40% of the contracts canceled by Musk's Doge efforts are expected to not produce that much cost savings and everything, I think is what they're trying to say, according to the Associated Press. Let me see what this whole article is and everything. But what is your thoughts, just Steve, about this attempt to get some cost savings going? Because that apparently is the latest push, is this notion that folks have to prove that they are actually worthy of their job.
I think I think that's a great question, and we want to have Rick chime in here. I think that there's always a need for efficiency. There's always a need for opportunities. But I think having blanket across the board cuts without really looking at the impact, right? Like I was trying to get an EIN number from the RS for my political committee, and it took me days because every time I called, they would have me on the phone and they didn't know who I was, and they would ask me the same question. And it was a very frustrating experience. So we know that with technology, with automation, there could be opportunities to have a better service, to have these kinds of things. But with that being said, I think that there are good things that USAID did. There are good things that nonprofits do on grants for renewable energy, clean energy, helping the homeless, helping veterans. And by cutting these federal funds, we're no longer funding these programs, and people are losing their jobs. FHI 360 employs thousands of people in RTI, and these are businesses that depend on 80% of their business on federal government. And I guess if there's any lesson learned, you got to diversify your businesses, right? In terms of don't get so dependent on one area. Right. But I think that this is the key, Mark. So it's concerning. Go ahead, Rick.
You have the right to have a reasonable life at work. After 100 years of labor laws and legislation. Now, Doge wants everybody who works for the government to be working 11, 12 hours a day and like knuckles to the grindstone like every single minute. People have a right to have like forest rangers, like, why fire forest rangers? And we're in the middle of this avian flu thing. You don't want to cut up the CDC and the FDA when The price of eggs is now $8.06, up 23% in the first 5 weeks of Trump as president. That's bird flu. It's killing, as I keep saying, it's killed 10 to 15% of the dairy cows in California. If it moves into people, it's, Katie bar the door for, another pandemic. And they did it. Doge claims that they saved $55 billion so far. Then newspapers got in there and they looked at the actual savings and found out they were overstated. And the actual savings so far is $2 billion, which is an average of $6 per American. It's not very much savings.
Rick, and that's what I was trying to get to, is because apparently that was what the AP was saying, was that nearly 40% of the contracts canceled by Doge are expected to produce no savings. So there's not going to be any savings with 40% of them, and 60% will probably be the ones that you were talking about that'll make those kind of saving ties and all along those lines. So it'll be quite interesting to see how this all plays out in the longer run. We've also got Jacoby joining us as well, but definitely it's going to be quite fascinating to see what goes on, especially since they've got that extended deadline and everything along those lines. So, Toby, glad you're joining us. But
one more thing. That email address you're supposed to send your report to, that's public knowledge. It's been on Twitter. So I'm sure that like hundreds of thousands of people are sending in like BS just to mess with the system. Not that. And will that make it harder for Doge to see who's sending their weekly report or not? I don't know.
So it is, to put it lightly and the best way possible, the idea behind it is asinine, because you have how many people in Doge, and you're asking 200 and some odd thousand people to send an email to check
2 million, 2.4 million.
Yeah. So you're asking how many people you're checking, to the millions of people to check in on an email that that they're supposedly going to read through and find out what you've done. And how many people again does Doge have? Roughly about 30 at most. Mm-hmm. And even then, Doge has already made over 17 some odd $1 million. So we're wasting money for them to send out some ridiculous email that they're never even going to check. So this is asinine at best.
Yep.
So if you do the math based on what you just said, say everybody sends in 100-word email. That means that they're expecting somebody has to look at read 240 million words, which is the equivalent of 2,400 thick books.
And the thing, and even if you take it even more, the Doge idea itself, I mean, everybody talks about government efficiency. That's what we have, different oversight committees and different things already in Congress. Doge is nothing more than a redundant idea. This was a way to sell an oligarchy to the American public. And that's what this is. For example, do you know that the amount of money that they supposedly saved could have been done easily by cutting contract to the subsidies to oil industries that are already making record profits? Why does the oil industry need to be subsidized if they're making record profits? It doesn't make any sense. So you're cutting these individuals in these areas, from cancer research to bird flu stuff and all this other stuff, but not even touching actually where cuts could be made. And then also remember the whole FAA situation, dealing with cutting all those individuals. Guess who gets a contract with the FAA now? Starlink. Who runs Starlink? The same dude that's running Doge, that's cutting the same industry that he's now going to make money off of. That's the problem. And that's what the game is with Doge. Again, it's an easy way to sell an oligarchy and to steal money in front of the people that it's trying to convince that they're doing something for.
Well, speaking of cuts and everything, I'd love to hear everybody's opinion on this and all along those lines. But it's a budget that is about to come out. It's the GOP's first big budget and everything. And apparently some of the Medicaid holdouts are coming around. So are we going to see a threat to entitlement programs and all along those lines? So I'll start with you, Steve. Do you think that we're going to see a threat? Because I have heard on the news several Republicans that have sworn that they will not touch Obamacare and some of the other entitlement programs like welfare and things like that. But then there are others that are trying to force them to come around. So what's your take on this? Are we going to see them go after these entitlement programs that a lot of people depend on?
I mean, I think we can't rule it out. I mean, I think that you know, we shouldn't be surprised that that this has happened. And I think all things are on the table. You know, and I think that I'm hoping it's not Medicare, Medicaid. I mean, there has been talk about Medicaid expansion in North Carolina, for example, being affected. We'll wait and see. You know, I don't know. It's going to be very, very interesting to see kind of what happens. But you know, the honest to God truth is that, you know, we shouldn't be surprised. Trump is doing everything that he said he was going to do: deportation, tariffs, cutting waste in federal government. And so, you know, once he won, you know, people should have realized, oh my God, you know, if I'm winning 80% of my business in the federal government, I could be in trouble. Or, you know, what am I going to do for my retirement plan? I don't think he'll eliminate Social Security, or you know, privatize it or whatever. But you know, the big Trump is in danger. You know, and I think all things are on the table at this point.
Trump is flailing in the direction of some of the things he said he'd do. For instance, deporting people. His numbers are no better than Biden's in the last year of Biden, and don't come anywhere close to Obama's numbers. Obama was the king.
I think his strategy is, you know, even if you read, and we got Sasha Starter to give his input. I'm going to leave in about 10 minutes, but even if you read Art of the Deal, his old book, right? I mean, that's the way he negotiates. He goes out there and he puts something crazy, some offer, and then you come back in the middle and say, well, let's do a deal, right? So, but I think, you know, he's the president of the United States. He's not just a deal maker. He's just throwing this stuff out there. And I think it's a strategy, a media ploy. It's like a reality TV show. He's running this thing like a reality TV show. Crazy things. I mean, think about it. We have somebody running the FBI now that has no criminal law enforcement background.
The top two.
I mean, I remember watching Hannibal Lecter and Jodie Foster and Clarice Starling and the FBI. What was that guy's name? Crawford. I mean, these are like, you know, you look at that. I mean, it was like, to be the FBI, you got to go through the ranks. How does a mega podcaster run the agency that doesn't know anything about it? Sasha Starr, what are your thoughts?
Okay, but plus Dan Bongino, the second in charge, never worked at the FBI either.
No.
Yeah.
Neither one.
Yeah, but that deputy secretary is the one that runs the day-to-day operations. I mean, that's what's scary. I mean, it'd be like me. I mean, I'm a city councilman, a media personality now in North Carolina. You know, I'd like to run. I'd like to be the chief of police here. That'd be fun. You know, maybe. But I don't have the skill set. You don't want me being a police officer. I haven't gone through the training. I don't understand it. You know, what if? Now, I guess even director of public safety in North Carolina, I have to look at Eddie Buffalo's experience. But normally, the State Highway Patrol, the people that run public safety, they have some law background experience.
Yeah, most of the people like the sheriffs, even locally and everything, have come from law enforcement and everything like that. I did have a question for Sasha really quickly, and it comes back to the news and everything like that from Ukraine. And I know he'll be talking about this on his show coming up at 11 o'clock. But we did see that there was a UN resolution, and apparently the U.S. was the only one that voted against it. And it was to basically condemn Russia for what they did 3 years ago and all along those lines. And I guess there's still some talks about trying to get some peace and everything, but Zelensky has turned down some of the offers, and probably rightfully so, and everything. But what is your take on what's going on?
We weren't the only bad guys. Sorry, and then I'll let Sasha go. It was also Belarus and North Korea and a couple other bad guy countries.
Right.
Well, you have to take a step back and see the bigger picture. I think when Trump said that I'm your retribution, I think his words are addressed to Mr. Putin and to Russia more than to anybody else. The mission of Trump is to dismantle all, not just US, all Western democracies as they existed today or soon to be existed. He is doing everything possible and impossible in his US politics and even more so in international politics. So when Ukraine asking that a part of the ceasefire, they would like to have guarantees that Russia will not do the same thing sometime from now, 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, whatever. Now, Trump's answer actually, and he's not in a hurry to say what kind of guarantees there will be. In fact, there will be no guarantees because if Russia and Putin are Trump's friends, which they are, look at yesterday's what's happened in the United Nations. Then why Ukraine needs any guarantees from Russia, from a Russia attack? Does Ukraine need any guarantees from US attack against Ukraine? Probably not. But if Russia is US friend, then it doesn't need any guarantees against Russia's attack just as well. So Ukraine actually doesn't need anything. Actually, it's the best what they can do, as already has been suggested, for Zelensky to fly to France and stay there. There will be a quick snap election. There will be somebody else replacing him. And that somebody else will be, of course, choice of Russia and the United States. And that will be the end of Ukraine. Okay?
Yeah.
This
Along
is
those,
happening.
yeah, along those same lines, what is
Well-
your take about this notion of a European peacekeeping force? Because as you have stated several times, Ukraine has done a very valiant job of fighting off Russia for these 3 years and everything, but no real blood has been spread from anybody in the United States, and the same with the European nations. But there was this notion, and I guess Trump was phoning it, of there being a peacekeeping force, but it was going to be European peacekeepers. So I just wanted your take on this notion, because apparently Trump says Putin will accept that European peacekeeper. That's what he said yesterday.
Putin already said several times, and his assistants like Lavrov, that no NATO peacekeeping force will be allowed. Not only NATO, but even countries which are part of NATO, even if they will form some kind of a force. No, it's not going to be allowed. It's not going to be tolerated in Ukraine. So essentially, Putin is driving a hard bargain. There were no any concessions toward the peace agreement from Russia. Trump and his team, they made all concessions which are possible, including no membership for NATO for Ukraine, all this crazy business with the natural resources of Ukraine. This is something else that there will be books written about what's happened with that. This is just incredible. And because in first draft, the number was $500 billion of some kind of crazy exploration, rare earth metals, which is already sounds quite strange. But what was happening is that essentially this money, whatever and even when, will be derived out of this venture, so-called, it will go to cover what Americans have already spent on Ukraine, and he put the number, as I heard myself from him, $350 billion. The real number is way much smaller. It's around $76 billion. But you see, the problem is that you recognize $350 billion, then you essentially you sold your country, because to cover this, if it's a debt, because it's never been suggested that it's a debt for Ukraine which has to be repaid. It was in the form of grants, and the grants are not repayable in this construction. So essentially, Zelensky had to transfer the whatever grants are which are not returnable, to confirm it into or recognize it into the debt which has to be repayable at some point, and the number, instead of say $70 billion, would be swoon to $350 billion. That's what kind of a deal, and there was nothing that for signing this deal, U.S. will continue to support Ukraine, whether by ammunition and weapons and financial help. There was nothing of that either. So Zelensky, rightly so, refused to sign this, and Trump became furious, and it's now on the verge. Okay, yesterday, though, Trump said that he's waiting for Zelensky to come this week or next week and renegotiate. No, not renegotiate, but sign the deal. That's what he said. We'll talk about it on Ukrainian show, but to tell you the truth, obviously, based on yesterday's United Nations voting, there will be no more help, regardless what Zelensky will sign or not to sign. There will be no further help from US. So it's time to politely say, United States, thank you so much for your help. You really helped us along the way. Because of you, we were able to stay around and fight. However, everything in this life, you have the beginning, you have the end. So this came to its end. Let's recognize it and remain friends. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. That's what Zelensky, in my opinion, should do.
Yeah. Steve, you're on mute, I think. You're on mute,
Thank
Steve.
you all for letting me be on the show. I've got to run, but I'll be back hopefully tomorrow. Thank you all. Wonderful show. And I think this, there's never a shortage of things that we can talk about. So, and hopefully after March 3rd, I'll be winning the primary and then have a little time to be on more. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That
so
sounds
much.
good and everything. Steve, just really quickly, you do know that there's going to be an interesting race here in the local elections as well, because we have the former mayor's daughter running against Leonardo, and I think there's a couple of others that have thrown their hats in, but they're already starting to gear up, so it should be an interesting race.
Which former mayor?
Mayor Bell, Mayor Bell's daughter Anjane, who will be running against Leonardo Williams. So he was the long-running mayor here in Durham for a number of years.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and everything. Hey, Jacoby, just really quickly on a separate note, and I did see your hand, Rick, and everything. I did see that one of the one of the football teams basically said thanks, but no thanks to being coming to the White House visit. So I know you follow sports just like I do, but what was your take on that? Because apparently the Eagles were like, that's okay. We don't think that we want to go hang out with you, particularly since you rooted for Kansas City. You didn't like the halftime show and a number of other things that they did not like. So they basically said thanks, but no thanks. And I think this is their second time doing this, because I think the last time they won, they did the same thing.
So I don't know if it's official yet, because they're still deciding. Last thing I read, for example, is that the Eagles have not received an invitation to the White House. They're supposed to be voting as a team. Last time, there were only a few individuals from the Eagles who were going to go visit. So then then supposedly scheduling conflicts happened with the White House. So the invitation they ended up not going because of that situation. I hope they don't go, especially representing Philadelphia and what that city is, and what it represents to a lot of minorities and stuff like that. I hope they don't go, because there's no reason to visit and normalize what is in the White House, and that's the problem, is that we keep normalizing and utilizing the same terminologies to normalize it because that's what we live in and we're not used to it. But yeah, it'd be nice if they didn't, because people have to take a stand, which is why I was actually happy to see some of the actual employees that are getting frustrated with all the confusion, the federal government employees from the park rangers putting the upside down American flag out there. Just, starting to push back and recognize this is not normal and we need to push back against it.
Yeah. What are you going to
Matter
say?
of fact, and Rick, did you see it where somebody put out on it was one of the departments, they put out, I think it might have been the transportation department, but they put out an AI video of it was a salacious video with
the Trump toe sucking.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and thumbs up to that, except that they couldn't get AI to give him a right foot and a left foot. He had two left feet.
But they put it on the actual company, on the actual federal government server, which was wild.
Yeah. I just want to go back to Trump's Ukraine peace plan for a second,
Yes.
which is not going to happen. But Trump's plan included European troops enforcing the border that lets Putin keep all the land he grabbed. So basically, even under that plan, Trump wants to use European soldiers to help Putin guard the land that he swiped from Ukraine.
And think about it. Think about how crazy this is. Because Sasha, I was hoping you were going to bring this up, but in terms of the concessions, think about how crazy this is. The GOP keeps saying, "Well, Putin gets to keep his land, and he's going to help rebuild Ukraine." That's a concession. They're going to make money now, and then even worse, Putin is going to help mine the rare earth minerals. That's a concession. What the heck is this?
Wait a sec. First of all, I still don't understand if U.S., and most likely that's what it is. It's not most likely. It is almost 100% based on yesterday's votes in United Nations. U.S. is not going to help Ukraine, neither by weapons or financially or any other kinds. Zero. That's the end of story. What U.S. is doing now on negotiating peace between Ukraine and Russia? Why U.S., who is openly now friends with Putin and Russia, is doing as a negotiator between Russia, who is Trump's friend, against Ukraine, who is apparently, especially Zelensky, is Trump's enemy. And it's quite obvious. Why are they negotiating? They're not going to provide any more help. They're not going to be involved financially. They're not going to send troops on the border to guarantee the peace. They're not going to do a zilch, nothing, zero. What are they doing at negotiating table? That's my question.
So the U.S. has given, I don't know, maybe $75 billion, except that 3/4 of that $75 billion stayed within the U.S. to pay for armaments. Like California got like $700 million. I saw a chart that showed how much each state got in these payments. Companies in these states, and it's good for the economy, though nobody's arguing that, but it took World War II to pull us out of the Great Depression. We tried a bunch of stuff, but really what goosed the economy after the Depression that started in 1929 was fighting World War II starting in 1941.
Yeah, that's very true. War is often done.
Okay, just from financial point of view I want to tell you that people including those who are in charge of financial markets. They're getting more and more frustrated by Trump's policies. Market is nosediving every single day, and there is no end to it, to tell the truth. And I was able to liquidate some of my holdings. I've liquidated one quite big position today. There is no catalyst. There is no point that market would reverse. There is no good news on the horizon whatsoever. It's a bleak, like it's never been before. And with the tariffs that he still wants to put his tariffs on Canada and Mexico by March 3rd, I believe. And this is a horrible thing to do because Canada prepared all retaliatory packages. There is an open, white country boycott of all U.S. products, U.S. produce, anything what has anything to do with U.S. I noticed that even on the shelves, even on the produce, there's stores are not even offering U.S. produce simply because it's just a waste for them to fill shelves with products which doesn't sell. So they might as well put something what sells. So in this case, they remove all U.S. produce and put something Colombia, Mexico, Moroccan now. For example, clementines. Yesterday, I saw in stores from Morocco and mandarins from Israel. Just name it. It's just nothing from U.S. Is how Trump is going to benefit from it. There is something else is that I'm listening to different philosophical discussions about this present situation. Most of everything what's Trump doing, it's from 2025 book, which was his program, and he said he was supposed to get everything done in 100 days. He is doing much faster than that. Done already more than half of everything that he was supposed to do. He's already done. So by 100 days, there will be a different country from what you had just a couple of months ago.
No, along those same lines and everything, Sasha, and this is for everybody, including Kim and everybody, but one of the things that he said he was going to do in that book 2025 was he was going to drill, baby drill, but he's also going to like pull out of a lot of the climate activities. And it looks like the U.S. pulled their delegation from the UN climate science meeting several days back and everything about 5 days back. And now there is this notion that we've been absent from global climate forums during Trump 2.0. So are we just going to give up on this notion of environmental safety from a United States standpoint under the Trump 2.0, or what's going to go in that? Because Forbes even wrote an article.
Yeah, it's 4 years of lost possible project on possible progress on climate change.
Yep, it seems like, because I know Forbes was saying we have a don't ask, don't tell U.S. climate policy. So I guess it's just like we'll do whatever we want to, whether it's the drilling or the pipeline or a number of other things. And even kind of like what Jacoby brought up, because I had mentioned that, mentioned that yesterday, the protest that had happened with the flag.
I always talk about this, where we are going to save ourselves from climate change because you've got pessimism causing some people to not have babies. The boomers having all the money in America and maybe the world, I don't know. So causing some people to not have babies. So much streaming entertainment, plus pornography, causing people just to stay home with themselves instead of go out, try to hook up, causing people to not have babies. So by 2050, the only continent where the population will be increasing will be Africa, and the world's population will hit a maximum and then start going down after 2060, which will help save us from climate change. The fewer people polluting, the less climate change.
So I want to add a few things to that is because of some of the laws that they're imposing on us in the United States to have babies. They're really pushing women here to have babies with the anti-abortion acts, pro-birth, not pro-life, because you don't give a damn about that life after that baby's born. So don't go throwing that in my face because I will punch your face so you can feel what they feel. But anyway, so let's talk about what's really going on. If you go start researching the bills that they're pushing, the recent bill in South Carolina, I think it's 3537, says that if a woman has an accident while carrying a baby and loses the baby, and this accident could be you were out walking in the woods and you tripped and fell. And if you lose the baby, you could be held accountable for the death and go to jail for murder. So an accident while carrying a baby. So we remember about a couple of years ago with all this anti-abortion crap going on, I said, you guys are trying to chain pregnant women to the beds. Not you guys, but that's what they're doing. You're going to have to be chained to your bed while you're pregnant so you don't lose your baby. Because if you lose the baby, even by an accident, according to the law right now, you will be held accountable for a murder. And I think that's wrong. I think these laws have gone way too far. The other law that just got passed that they've been pushing is the new Voter Act, SAVE. You now have to have, certain pieces of identification, and just a birth certificate for people who are married and took on the surname of the person they married won't work. You can't use your birth certificate if you have a different surname on your driver's license, and a driver's license and a real ID will not be sufficient. So they are now saying if you are married and took on the surname of your spouse, you will need to go get a passport and get that passport updated if it's not updated with the surname on it. So that is the new SAVE law. People go, oh, that's not what it means.
It definitely means that because women vote Democratic more than men do. So it's trying to, squeeze out the women.
It's trying to squeeze out the women and everything.
So we've gone back to the 1800s with our voter laws.
Well, speaking of going back to the 1800s, I had a quick question for Rick, because it's based on things that I've seen, including Kash Patel and everything. What's going on, and maybe it's just me and my own optimism and everything, but what's going on with the May-December relationships? Because we got a coach at UNC that's 82 that's got a 20-something-year-old, and Kash Patel apparently left his wife for a 20-something-year-old, and I think Kash Patel is in his 40s.
Here's the it's easier to jizz with a young, hot partner. And guys just want to get the jizz out. They just want to ejaculate easily. So, Belichick, who's what, 72, 74?
I think he's 80-something.
80-something. Anyway, he's got a young cheerleadery girl. It's for, when you've got it's harder for me. I turned 65 in a couple of months. And, sometimes it's a struggle to work with a noodly old boner. So you need a young, hot girlfriend. It's all kind of Handmaid's Tale-ish,
and that's where I was going, even with what Kim was talking about, because we do seem to be heading back to a Handmaid's Tale kind of existence, where these old guys get their young ladies and they are confined and basically imprisoned to the bed and everything like that. So it does seem like we're heading back toward a Handmaid's Tales kind of world, and maybe that's what President Trump wants.
People were told this is what was coming. Kim just pointed out they're wanting people to have kids. That's what that is. It is the Handmaid's Tale. They're taking away. We pointed out they're taking away women's voting rights, because if your last name is changed, then you're not going to be able to vote now because your last name has changed. The majority
chain us to the beds.
Exactly. This is what they. Again, I pointed out the other day. I saw a picture of the Joint Chiefs. The only two people they fired of the Joint Chiefs were the black guy and the woman. Why? Because historically speaking, based on Trump's history, his own history that people told everyone about. Trump fired black people or removed black people from his casino tables because he did not want black faces to be the face of his casino.
He wanted everybody in their place. He didn't want black people to be at the tables, and he didn't want them in the accounting department. He said yarmulke heads
Nick runs
in accounting.
Yep, Nick ran quick.
Nick came and left.
Well, I just want to say, Nick and I got into a little spit for spat about what's going on here in America. And he goes, well, I'm not too worried. It was about the $5,000 deal. And he goes, and somebody said, well, Nick will come back to get the 5,000. He goes, no, I think I'm just going to hang out here and drink my Mai Tais, overlooking the ocean in my new home here in Spain. And I go, well, while you're doing that, I'm going to be drinking my champagne imported from France in my hot tub because I can't afford the beer here in America because of the tariffs that they have put on everything. The breweries are going under. I don't know if you've heard that. But they did an interview with some of the breweries, and they said we can't afford to sell our beer to the people because they can afford to buy it right now.
Well, I know
the major beers are imports because the.
But I can drink my champagne imported from France. I promise you that.
A lot of the beers are very popular. I don't know the exact numbers, but I do know. Maybe Sasha knows because he studied the market. But I do know that a lot of the beers and wines that are popular are not from the United States. So even though there are some United States.
I will be one to testify here. When you drink some of the alcohol products made in other countries, they don't have all the sedatives and that make you sick. So like I could drink a bottle or two and not get sick in another country and have more alcohol content. So I don't recommend doing that.
Well,
I don't get hungover, but I've had friends come here from other countries and they complain to me, Kim, I went to that vineyard and I got sick as a dog. And it's because of all the crap we're forced to put in to our bottles here in America.
Well, I think for a few years now, the leading U.S. beer brand is Dos Equis. Which is made in Mexico and which is owned by Heineken,
which is not a U.S. company either.
So you'll be able to not afford beer, but you can drink champagne made in Spain. Imported from Spain is a lot cheaper.
You can make your own beer.
The weather here is good. I love listening to liberals complain. One black guy gets fired, one woman gets fired. It's all racist. Even though he fires a lot of white men, but you guys
don't go watching TikTok on this issue.
He fired who was that? Millie and all stuff. So when he fires the white men, you're just quiet. The minute one black guy gets fired, oh no, he's racist. Then a woman gets fired. Oh no, he's sexist. Come on, this guy fires more white men than he does anybody else. But that doesn't suit the narrative of the liberals. So you just kind of ignore it and walk over. And then what's even funnier is I'm watching it's all projection and hyperbole. Oh, in the future, the United States is going to be horrible in the future. We're all going down the tubes in the future. And you have nothing concrete to say about what's going on today because there's nothing to argue with today. What he's doing is he's cutting the liberal out of the government, and there's a lot of it. There's more so than you could possibly imagine, not billions, but trillions of dollars thrown away. Internet for all, save the climate, gender studies in Africa. Can you do anything more to put your country in the deep hole that it is right now? No. And then what happens when Doge goes find it? You start complaining. Oh no, he's cutting all our liberals' programs. Oh no, how can we survive? Give me a break. That's the reason.
That's liberal programs that are being cut and everything. I think that's a false narrative that you put out there, Nick.
500 years from now.
That are being cut.
And then even funnier is Governor Newsom. Governor Newsom cries to Congress, I want $40 billion because we mismanaged our wildfires in California and the millionaires need subsidies. Boo, California. They shouldn't give them a dime. By the way, the Pod TV poll is, I thought it's like 60-40 right now in favor of not giving California a dime. Oh, speaking of lives in California, there's Rick. Somebody can defend the California millionaires, please.
What am I defending here?
The California millionaires asking for subsidies for poor people to contribute so they can build their big homes in Malibu. That's what you're doing.
I'm not sufficiently informed on what they're asking for.
Okay, let me help you.
They're also in
They're
content.
asking Congress for $40 billion.
All right, well, okay, all right.
$1
So here's the
billion mansions in Malibu.
12,000 houses burned down. Most
So
of
what?
them did not belong to Malibu billionaires. Most of them were in the Eaton area, and they belonged to middle class people.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Middle class millionaires. Oh,
No, the
my
Eaton area is actually an African American area, or at least part of it.
Yeah.
Oh, my
They're not-
Lord.
they
Yes.
are more like lower
$40
middle class.
billion.
I-
Oh, my.
I
Let me
have
get
a
my checkbook out.
question.
Let me
I
get my checkbook out right now and write my
Nick
check to the
filibustering.
millionaires
I
in
don't know
California
everybody
so
just
they
saying
can
this.
rebuild because
Saying
they
this.
I
mismanaged.
have a question about
wildfire.
the subsidy. Nick, I have a
Yeah.
So
a
do you
legitimate
want to
question
stiff? So
about
Nick,
You
billionaire subsidy.
cannot be serious.
do you
Do
want to?
they-
So
is
wait,
that in
wait. So do you want to stiff Hawaii too? Hawaii had a big fire that devastated, hundreds, thousands of homes.
Yeah, that's why you have insurance. You know the thing is
Nick,
there's thing
the
called
insurance
So I
company-
want
homeowners
you to know insurance doesn't cover that
Hello.
kind
Insurance
of
If you
doesn't
don't
cover
pay your insurance, your home
Insurance
burns
doesn't
down.
cover-
There's two words: too bad.
Yeah,
Insurance doesn't
company
cover.
canceled
The insurance
of
doesn't cover
thousands,
those
maybe.
catastrophes. I know. I've been.
Well,
Yeah,
the
I
government
know
isn't to provide your every wish, including natural
But Nick,
catastrophes.
It's not
Am I
providing
right
everybody.
to? Am I right
Oh, I
to
think
say
it's
that?
catastrophe. Send me money.
So,
Too
so
bad.
wait, hold on. So what makes California different from North Carolina or
There isn't
Tennessee?
There isn't anything.
They're
The
not
people of North
giving-
Carolina,
they're not-
Everybody.
they should
We're
have their
not
own flood
rebuilding the homes
insurance.
for
If
the
they don't,
billionaires
there's
here.
two words: too bad.
They're
So
not
what about
rebuilding the
Nick?
homes
What
for the
about-
billionaires
Too
here. There are none.
bad.
This is where you're not
Get
listening.
your insurance
Nick, you're not
policy.
listening. Nick, hold
Get
on,
your
Nick, you're
insurance
not
policy.
listening. We
Of
pointed
course,
out
I'm trying to be
multiple
I'm trying to be a
times.
liberal. I'm not
Hold on,
listening.
Nick. Hold on. You just keep talking. Remember how you try and
I
tell
learned
me
from you.
God gave you two ears and one mouth. Let's try and use the two ears more than we use the one mouth. Now,
Well, that's
how
a
many
scam.
times have we just told you that insurance doesn't cover it? And then your response is they should have bought insurance. Now, when you keep saying they should have bought insurance, that's telling us that you don't care about the facts. You're not even listening, and you're just spouting and parroting. talking
Yeah, but I
more.
wanna
If you
know-
own a home, Katobi,
I
you
wanna
carry
know if there's
homeowners insurance. Hello?
You
Well,
just
I
said
just-
Okay, I don't know why you guys just
Insurance
don't want to pay the
covered.
premium.
Insurance
So
What do you-
first
It
off,
will
I
be.
Hold on,
Insurance
don't
will
talk
not
over
each
cover.
other.
I want
Insurance
to
It
address
really ain't
a
my problem, buddy.
serious question.
That ain't the government's problem. That's your
Hey,
problem. You don't buy homeowners insurance. You own a home.
You
Yeah.
cannot get the
And if your home
coverage
burns
for it.
down,
That's
Kim's
the
got a
thing.
question. Kim's got a question. So let's hear Kim's question.
Does what you just talked about, Nick, is that in addition to the subsidies that the billionaires and millionaires got for insurance to cover their homes, and did that subsidized insurance cover any of the damages? Because the millionaires and billionaires in California received a subsidy to cover their homes because regular insurance did not cover it. So my question is this in addition to that?
We live in California. We've been dealing with this. Our insurance was canceled. We had to scramble. I'm saying we, but it was really my wife had to call more than a dozen insurance companies. We had to repipe the whole house, and we barely got reinsured. And
Oh my God! You actually had to fix your house up so the insurance company would cover it. God forbid. You know, I mean, the thing is, you just got to get real.
I'm saying that hold on, that's not if the process,
You jumped in and didn't even listen to
talking
the
over me. So if you've taken any, if a lot of people, let me talk. A lot of people, it took a long time to get reinsured. A lot of people were in the same boat as us and were in between insurance companies when their houses burned down. So,
oh, my heart just bleeds for you. My Lord, we had to do a lot of work to get the insurance policy.
You didn't even listen.
I don't know that when I'm getting home.
You didn't listen.
Spending a lot of time getting homeowners insurance policies. LO. Oh, but I spent a lot of time. Oh, poor baby.
Remember,
yeah, okay, poor baby. If you're somebody who got canceled by State Farm a week before the fires happened, and you're scrambling to get insurance, and you couldn't get it in time.
That should have been your first clue that your liberal government was mismanaging the fire situation. You had all these woke people out there.
All right, so
Florida,
North Carolina,
to visit the president, and then allowing cinder to just build up all over LA, and the insurance companies are stupid. I'm telling you. They look at your situation, they realize you guys are really messed up.
You look at California.
What do you expect?
You're saying that it's Florida's government's fault. It's Tennessee. It's any state with natural disasters. It's the fault of the government for not.
Rick, according to Nick, it's all black folks' fault because he brought up, they push diversity, so black people cause these natural disasters. Is that what
they need to get insurance policies?
Again, you're not listening. Insurance doesn't cover people in Wilmington because of the flood area that they're in. Insurance won't cover particular areas as Rick pointed out in California.
When did you have a right to live in a flood area? When did you have a right to live on a flood area?
Cover these particular areas and particular things. Insurance, just getting insurance, it's not that easy. But you like talking over right now. But you're not actually listening to the situation that Rick was actually trying to express to you, or that Kim was trying to express to you. What you're doing is just ignoring it. You did this, la 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 la, and that's what you're doing right now.
Hey, Kirby, I'm buying houses right now as we're speaking, not one but several of them. And
you're buying several houses and complaining that others can't pay for them.
Okay, this is called. Remember the real estate course you took in high school? Remember the real estate course? The first thing you did in the look at real estate was if you were purchasing in a flood plain.
But that's not
a flood plain. You know what a flood plain is?
The average person cannot buy several homes. The average person has to fight the insurance and sometimes gets trapped between a natural disaster and the loss of insurance, and it doesn't get covered. So what you're saying is that these people, everybody else should suffer because you have money.
No. What I'm saying is you need to take their real estate course in high school, real estate investing. First thing that's right.
Your real estate course in high school does not help them buy insurance.
First thing you do when you learn real estate is in a floodplain. It's
a real estate course in high school will not help them buy insurance and will not help them fight the insurance companies when the insurance company denies the claim or does not cover particular areas. A real estate class is not your solution. And that is just lunacy if you think that, hey, all you had to do was take a real estate class and that's going to solve all your problems.
You take a real estate class and you see you're in a floodplain, you're in the cinder box, and you decide to buy a home there. Well, guess whose problem that is? It's your city
was built on a federal government. Hawaii was caught fire. Had all of the people there.
Did they have fire insurance? Did they have insurance?
Nick, first off, a lot of people in Malibu and everything else are not necessarily.
I don't want to pay the premium. When things burn down, we'll have the government come pay it. I don't want to pay. Their ability to live in Hawaii. I get the right to live on a beautiful island overlooking the sea, subject to a lot of wildfires, and I don't want to pay for it because something burns down. I'll
Okay,
have
so
the federal government
now
step in.
you just
No,
want
you
white
don't
not to
step
have
in. You
representation.
make them pay.
You want them taxation
Yeah.
without representation.
It's not taxation. They're taxing us. They want me to pay for their
Hold on.
lunch.
You want taxation without
Let's
representation.
hear from
telling
Rick
me
because he's trying to defend
they can live there, but I'm
it.
not going to pay for it.
Stuff
It's
like
undefendable.
this that will be, LA will fall as the great city of America. Right now, LA is kind of the West Coast capital of America. It's it's where all the entertainment comes out of. In 20, 30 years, LA will be a fallen city. The entertainment industry will have moved elsewhere because of climate change. LA will start having, 20, 30, 100-degree days a year. People in entertainment who are spoiled babies will say F it, and they'll take their money and they'll move north to Vancouver, to Seattle, and LA will fall. It'll become like the way Detroit used to be a great American city. Now when we think of Detroit, we think shithole. Detroit.
Well, you also are living on the San Andreas Fault. So when there's this big earthquake, which will happen, and half the homes in California fall into the crack, and they're all destroyed, Jatovia will go, the government should pay for it.
Here's the question.
This is the funny part. Hello, Governor Newsom. Nobody should live in Southern California. You're living on a
Didn't DeSantis do that?
moron. Collect.
Didn't DeSantis do that? Didn't because
Oh, but we're entitled. I'm sorry.
Actually,
we're
here you go,
entitled
Nick.
to live in California.
You love
If
this.
something goes wrong, the government will pay
Listen,
for it.
Nick, I got you. Listen to this. Now, red states actually receive more in tax dollars than any blue state. Blue states donate more in tax dollars than any red state. So you're sitting here complaining about a blue state that has invested more than all these red states have.
Sing along with me. Okay, in 2025, the United States was taken by surprise and now lives under a king.
It's about time we have a king because the commoners can't rule themselves. Being of royal birth, I can tell
We're at
you
the top of the hour.
the commoners can't rule
Love
themselves.
you all.
We need a king. Thank you.
Goodbye.
I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for an engaging conversation. And you know what, everyone? Stay healthy so you can stay wealthy. Take care.
It's so quiet.